This is Mike Went with the Greater Cleveland Film Commission, and we're super excited, because it's that time of the year. It's the Cleveland International Film Festival, the 49th edition, and I'm so pleased that we're going to be partnering with the film Lost and Found in Cleveland, and I'm so lucky to have the directors Keith Gerchak and Marisa Guterman here. Um, Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about this film.
Thank you, Mike. And Cleveland's lucky to have you. So,
Well, I appreciate that. Tell us how this collaboration between you two all came about. And I know that that's probably like a really long
no, it's a
answer.
love story that we
Yes.
love to tell. We love a meet cute. We know film lovers also love a meet cute. Keith and I were actually auditioning for the same role. I know, hard to imagine. You should see me with a beard. And we kind of just hit it off in the waiting room. And I was like, would you go out with me? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, would you write something with me? Because I knew that there was something there. And he was like, well, maybe. And I said, what about a film about Antiques Roadshow? And Keith was like, you got my interest. And so it kind of evolved over this cup of coffee where I said, I'm from LA, don't really need to see Antiques Roadshow set in Los Angeles. And Keith said, well, I'm from Cleveland. And I laughed because, that's what a lot of people do when you say Cleveland. And Keith was like, not so fast. And he schooled me in Cleveland, and now I've become kind of like an expert with my PhD, and I live here now. So the joke's on me.
Which is I mean, it's so amazing that you have eventually moved here. Tell us real quick. I know this has been a journey for you both from conception, writing it, and getting it to screen. And really, it's to me, it's such an inspiration because I know that this was supposed to film a few years back, and
Yeah.
then through it all, thick and thin, you got through it. So tell us that process of from that idea on the page to eventually rolling cameras here in Cleveland.
Are we going to share a drink over this, Mike? I mean, Yeah.
Yeah.
what? How can you ask this question? Well, you've been part of our journey, so thank you for being part of this 10-year effort. It's kind of crazy. Keith and I say movies have 9 lives, quite like cats. And so every iteration of the film, of it coming together, of it feeling like we had the money and then evaporating into thin air, whether, pandemics, tariffs in China. We had every kind of fun, terrifying independent film story that two people could have, but we really feel like at the end of the day, we made the film that we wanted to make. It was from page to script to the edit. We can't believe it, but we did it. And I think through our teamwork and perseverance together, we threw ourselves breadcrumbs. We thought, oh, we'll write it. Okay. We went to Sundance, like we were like, that's what you do. You got a script, you go to Sundance. And so we found a financier who was like, sure, I'll give you the money. So then we had enough confidence to walk around LA and say, we have the money for this. And then we figured out we quickly didn't. And we learned how to raise money. We learned how to kind of advocate for ourselves as filmmakers, as storytellers. And then once we raised a lot of the money, we had many different uh, mini crises happen in which the people that really believed in us kind of said, we want you to still keep going with this project. And we believe in your vision so much. We hope that you're directing. And where we turned to each other and we said, oh my God, are we directing this? And so it kind of just was this beautiful evolution. And it really is a hero's journey, which I think is the filmmaker's journey. It's not a journey in getting rich quick, but it's a lesson in passion and resilience and a lot of the things that I think Clevelanders know well.
That's amazing. Now take us through the process of approaching some of these. I mean, you have an incredible cast in here
Yeah.
of people who are well known, and also some up and comers as well. What was that process like when you were getting yeses from the likes of Martin Sheen or June Squibb or Stacy Keach? What was that process like?
When we started the film, the first iteration, we had a casting director on board, and she told us, "You're never going to get these actors. Don't even try." And so, it was a less inspired casting process the first time around. And that second time around, when we regrouped, and as Marissa said, our real core investors said, "You're directing it right." We said, "Okay, we're going to take a different approach." And it was favored nations, as we say in film, where everybody got paid the same amount. And we said, there is no singular star. You're all stars. And this is an ensemble film like a Little Miss Sunshine that Hollywood doesn't make anymore. And frankly, Hollywood doesn't know how to produce anymore. That's really the reason why. They don't know how to distribute it, they don't know how to finance it. And so we went by our instincts, and the entire time it just felt like we were doing something that was bigger than ourselves. Which I think gave us inspiration to wake up every morning, but also kind of gave us the boldness to be able to say, yeah, these are the people that we had in mind. We wrote the role for June Squibb. Never had anybody else in mind.
Sure.
She was attached to it for 10 years. We originally had Ed Asner to play her husband. He passed away. And when everything came together for us to make the film, we said, well, Nebraska, there was such chemistry between June Squibb and Stacy Keach that they would be an amazing couple. And so we made the offer to Stacy, and he said, and within 12 hours, "I'll do it if June does it." And June
Wow.
said, "I'll do it if Stacy does it." Then we had a foundation that we could build all of the rest of the cast because they all wanted to work with each other. And so, when Adopt Marie Jones sees that she's working opposite June Squibb and Stacy Keach, she's going to say yes. When we got Martin Sheen, I think I can say this, the agency was like, "CAA? What is this?" Martin's wife called and said, "Don't offer to anyone else." And Martin said, "I'd be crazy not to do this because
Wow.
nobody can do a monologue like Martin Sheen." And when you write an 8-minute monologue about the meaning of life, and you hear his voice, and then he gets on the phone from Malibu and says, "Well, it's Martin Sheen, and do you mind if I read this to you?" And it's your own script, being goosebumps on the phone. And with Dennis Haysbert, we actually had him 48 hours before filming. That is the terror of independent film. We had another actor, and unfortunately, during the production meeting, he dropped out because his mother was dying, and it was a little too close to home in terms of what the storyline was about. And so our choreographer, Martin Cespedes, Clevelander, never done a film before, had been texting all day. We have a dream ballet in the film. And he's like, "Oh, we're going to do this around the actor and this around the actor." And I texted him at 10 o'clock at night and I said, "There's no actor. We don't know what we're doing at 6 a.m. on Monday." And a half hour later, he said, "What about Dennis Haysbert?" And I called him and I said, "Yeah, Marissa and I wrote the role for Dennis." And he said, "You have him." And he had a three-way call. He had called his best friend who was on the phone with Dennis.
Wow.
And he said, "This is what's going on." And Dennis said, "That's the craziest thing. Send it to my manager." And we called the manager 11 o'clock at night. 12 hours later, we had Dennis on board. And
That's
he asked,
wow.
"Why did I never know about this?" They don't find out about these things. We wrote it for him, and he said, "Who was the casting director 10 years ago who said I would never do this?"
Yeah.
A role like this doesn't come across my desk every day. And I get to be president on 24, opposite the president on West Wing, talking about the meaning of life. Sure. And that's really how it all came together.
Dang. That's a crazy story.
Oh
Now,
yeah, it's
Oh,
still
yeah.
crazy. I'm like having flashbacks just thinking about that. Cold
yeah,
sweats.
PTSD.
the heart attack, probably many
Yeah,
heart attacks.
many.
Now talk about the experience of working with the local Cleveland crew. As we know, this a lot of hardworking people here. Tell us what that was like, that experience was like for you both.
We love them. I mean, honestly, like they're family now. We couldn't have made this film without them. They really, I'm so proud of them. I'm proud. Everyone felt like this film was about Cleveland. And so because we're all Clevelanders, they were showing up with their A game. And we recreated Antiques Roadshow. I mean, we had 20 days to film this, and we pulled off something absolutely massive. Our art team was insane. I mean, every person Stacy, shout out to our PA Stacy, who was amazing. Malone, she's incredible. I'm so excited to talk about them, to recommend them. Andrew Stanton, I mean, Ryan Forte, our Steadicam, who our camera operator. I mean, we made an independent film. It feels like a studio budget, honestly, because of the team that we had. And I mean, it's a thrill. I can't wait to see them, to hug them, and for us to enjoy our work together on screen. But I just thank them because the movie that we so hope to make, our costume department. I mean, everybody was incredible on this film, and we really became a family. And in addition to the film, the vendors that came in our locations that were on board with the film, they became part of this family. We all kind of rallied together because at the end of the day, when Keith and I, it took us 10 years to make this movie and to make our vision come true that, we wanted to make we believe in the spirit of what the film commission does. Like we believe in the economic purpose of film in Northeast Ohio and our film representing that and employing people. It's something that we're so proud of. And I think everyone's work really shows up on screen.
Yeah, and it was like you said, Mike, that there's a work ethic that everybody had a sense of ownership of what we were pulling together, that it felt bigger than any one of us, and it wasn't a two-person show. It was a 100-person show. Everybody banding together and pulling it off, pulling off. There's an underestimation of the film. There's an underestimation, I think, of Cleveland. There's probably an underestimation of the crew. And boy, I think all three really proved themselves in the film.
I have two more questions, but before that, I just want to plug real quick that and I'll have it below embedded, but the film plays Sunday, March 30th at 4:45. You can save $1 on your order if you use our code GCFC. One of the things I really love about this movie is the way how Cleveland looks on camera. Like tell us about some of the locations that were important for you to have in this, and also the discussions that you had with the cinematographer to make Cleveland look great. Because a lot of times we double for another city, so it's kind of cool that Cleveland plays for Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, we always said that in this story, Cleveland is the protagonist, and it is the thing that kind of combines everybody. Hollywood sometimes went, I don't understand an ensemble. Like, how do the five storylines interact and relate? It's Cleveland. That is the common thread, and they're all coming together at Playhouse Square. And we joke about East and West and the Great Divide, and I have to have my passport, and yeah, I can say that I'm a native Clevelander who did, yeah, spend the weekdays on the West Side and then went to see my grandmother on the East Side on the weekends. But downtown was kind of that place where everybody converged, and Playhouse Square specifically is that place. And I had a long personal history with that particular location. And when Marissa and I said, what's the most iconic interior space that we could hold an antiques appraisal show, that Playhouse Square was kind of a no-brainer. And they were an amazing partner, as all the locations were. The West Side Market was an important. We had an event where a lot of East Siders had never been to the West Side Market. And the
Wow.
West Side Market vendors had never been invited to cater an event before. So to be able to start even in the process of making the film to have Cleveland see itself through our lens. And in this way, as you were saying, the cinematographer, we talked about a magical realism, and it was an American portrait. And so there is a very loving portrayal. But Cleveland also has a kind of nostalgia quality to it. And that's wonderful when people look maybe that are not familiar with Cleveland and they fall in love with it and say, does this exist? This has got to be like some set on a soundstage. And we say, no, this is what America actually looks like.
I think he
You
was
just
just
haven't been.
quoting my experience. I mean, the first time I came here, I was like, I had no idea. I mean, we drove through the flats and I was like, I mean, I'd seen it in Deer Hunter, but it feels different when you're
Yeah.
there. It's so tangible and vibrant, and it just evokes so much feeling. And to me, Cleveland then really became associated with the tangibility of the American dream and what that looked like and the American promise behind that. And you feel it in the architecture here. It's like, I honestly didn't know locations like this existed. And so for us, we wanted you to be in awe of the history of Cleveland, to really feel that. You feel that in some of the homes, you feel that in the grandness of Playhouse Square, but the intimacy of these other spaces where you can smell the wallpaper. I mean, that was such an important thing to us, that uh, Cleveland has these locations that are still preserved. They're so important to the American story. And Cleveland is just really at the heartbeat of that. And, Slavic Village was such an important location for us that St. Stan's there. It's one of the most beautiful churches that I've ever been to. And I think really understanding that St. Stan's is within Slavic Village, of this community that is really, I go back to, is the American story, was ground zero for the housing crisis, is, just this evolution of where Cleveland and the rest of the country are in this Rust Belt, not to knock on that, but it really was the industrial part of the city, and where these people lived and fulfilled their American dreams, and Main Street, and just what that feels like now. But it's bittersweet and it's beautiful, and all of these things are Cleveland, and that is just such an exciting thing to portray. Our cinematographer Devin Slininger is a master. We recruited him. We said we've loved everything you've ever shot. What he does is make things feel epic, and so
Yeah.
Cleveland feels epic on screen. He did La La Land and Babylon and Don't Look Up and all of these really important films. And so for us to show Cleveland as it's important, and I think you walk away feeling the bigness of that through the cinematography.
Last question. What screening at Playhouse Square, basically a homecoming screening for this movie, because
Yeah.
Playhouse Square is the location. What is that going to feel like? And I'm sure so many people that who helped get this from that idea to the
Yes.
screen. What's that going to feel like for you?
My God, it's a once in a lifetime moment. I mean, for me, my history with Playhouse Square goes back to when I was a kid. As a 12-year-old, my first season with Great Lakes Shakespeare Festival was their first season at the Ohio Theater, when they were going to tear all of Playhouse Square down. And then I was an architect renovating those theaters, and then helped start a theater company in Kennedy's. And then when Marisa and I had our production office there, and then filming there because we wrote the script there. And now to come back, and as you said, the audience is sitting there in a very meta experience going, wait, I'm watching it on screen, but I'm also in the space at the same time. And to be able to feel that love and that journey and support that we've had from everybody back home that have watched that journey for 10 years, and to see it come to fruition and to be able to share that. It's yeah, very palpable, and yeah, it's going to be very moving. I'm sure I'll be crying the entire time. Knowing
Well, Keith's nickname on set was Tissues because he did cry at the drop of a hat. But it's all emotional. When your dreams come true in real time, why not cry about it? I mean, I think, yeah, everything Keith said, I just have chills thinking about it, and I'm so excited to just give everyone a hug, and then to have it live with the audience who, a lot of people come from out of town for CIFF, but it's really people who live in Cleveland. And so to share the experience of the film with the people who live here it's what we've been dreaming about. So it's really exciting.
Well, I can't wait to share that moment all with you. And all of you who are watching this can also join in on the fun. Go to clevelandfilm.org. Lost and Found in Cleveland, Sunday, March 30th, 4:45 p.m. There will be a Q&A afterwards, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And I believe I heard Leon Bibb will be helping to conduct that. So Cleveland
Yes,
legend.
he is the narrator of the film. He is
Yes,
the voice of Cleveland. So it's special to be able to have him there. Yeah.
And
yes,
Ben, our Charlie, our Ralphie in this film is also going to be at the Q&A.
amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Keith and Marissa. Best of luck, and thank you so much, everybody. Remember, clevelandfilm.org. Save $1 with your order if you use our code GCFC, and we'll see you all at CIFF 49.
Just want to say one
Okay.
more thing. We couldn't have made this movie without Mike Wendt. So
Very
thank you,
true.
Mike. I mean, thank you for answering our panic calls, like maybe at 1 a.m. Like, honestly, really
Yeah.
couldn't have made this film without you. So thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure, and that's a big part of what we do here. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks.